Yes, yes.
Yes, you can print out notices that you can hang on your door to let your family members or housemates know that you are in a conference and they are not supposed to be very noisy.
So
So
that reminds me of that one video that went viral on YouTube na yung
BBC.
BBC was
Yeah.
interviewing this guy, and in the
Uh-huh.
middle of it all, the door opens and his little toddler.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the New Normal Business Show, presented by SERVIO Technologies, co-presented by Bitstop Network Services Data Center and MB Tech News. Today, we will be discussing work from home. I know everyone has experienced working remotely because of the pandemic that we are all going through right now. In fact, in SERVIO, we have decided to permanently implement a work from home arrangement across all. Because of this work from home, Blue Jeans actually came up with a survey, surveying those people who have been working remotely. And based from their survey, according to them, around 40% said that they were more productive because of the work from home setup. And around 30% says the productivity is still the same. So for those who are asking if productivity would be an issue, based on the survey, it is not. In fact, they have been working like 3 more hours compared to when they were working in the office. And a lot of them are saying they are willing to work like 90 more days having a work from home setup. In fact, some others are even said 1 more year. So, you can see in the survey that even ako naka long sleeves ako ngayon, even the setup, the attire is being different, pero sa ilalim naka shorts ako, which I won't show you anymore. So there have been a lot of changes because of this remote work. And there's another survey by leadership. They're saying that you are 87% more likely to love your job if you work from home. So you can see that there was a survey, those who have been working the traditional work setup, a mix of work from home in different locations, and a fully work from home. They've conducted a survey, and majority of them, actually 45% of them, said they love a work from home setup. So based from these statistics that we've just shown you, it seems like, and it's more likely, that work from home is the way to go. Now, the question is, how do you manage work from home? And that's what we would be discussing today. So again, for our Facebook audience, if you have friends who are working remotely, please share this video so that they can also learn from what we will be discussing today. So let's get right to it. I'd like now to welcome our speakers for today. Joey Gurango, our business technology coach, and Wilson Chua, our data analytics wizard. Welcome, Joey. Welcome, Wilson. Don't forget to unmute your microphone.
The topic of today, I think, also is going to be relevant to both Singapore and the Philippines. We're all in the same boat, working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And aspect is close to my heart because, as Brian said earlier, our company, SERVIO Technologies, is now a 100% work from home company. Effective July 1, wala na kaming opisina. We've given up our office. We are now all working from home, 100%.
Good for you. And
Yeah.
I suppose all of your staff are very happy with that decision.
Well, we'll see. Maybe some of
Especially
them
in
are
Metro
I'm
Manila,
happy.
because you don't have to suffer the traffic going to and from work and home.
Yeah. Why don't we get right to it,
Right.
Wilson?
Okay.
We talked about the top 3 ways how to manage work from home. So we're going to look at this from the standpoint of both the employees who work from home and their employers who needs to find a way to manage this
Correct.
work from home situation. So Wilson, number 1 way, I think, is let's take a look muna on mutually.
Yeah.
What do employees and
And
employer
employers.
both have to do. Okay?
Correct. Yeah.
And I'd like to kick off that discussion with one which I find very fascinating, and that is we need to understand, both employers and employees need to understand the benefits that come with what is called asynchronous communication. Kasi
Correct.
ang
Yeah.
normal human communications is synchronous. Ibig sabihin, nag-uusap tayo, sagutan, immediate response.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas asynchronous means hindi real time.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that you say something now and you will not get a response until even hours later, and vice versa. So,
Yep.
what are the benefits about asynchronous communication? Well, as this chart shows, dito, there are many different kinds of communication, and asynchronous, if you see, is the one that's lower down the pyramid. And they're lower down the pyramid because when you have a more, shall we say, deep thinking, asynchronous communication works the best because you need long periods of time to think before you can deliver your response.
That asynchronous also works for global remote teams that are working in different time zones. Correct?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Right, Wilson. And of course, now we're becoming more of a global work environment. You might
Mm-hmm.
have people who are 24 hours different time zone than you, or even 12 hours, or even 4 hours. So, expecting somebody to answer you when you have a question at 9 o'clock in the morning may not be reasonable because it's
Mm-hmm.
still 4 o'clock in the morning where they are. So, tama yun. The more
Yeah.
global you are in your work, the more you have to rely on asynchronous. So this next slide I wanted to show is they're comparing the different kinds of work that work best with asynchronous versus synchronous. And if you notice, the examples they have of what's called deep work, yung talagang merong long-lasting impact. For example, drafting a plan, doing programming work, preparing a presentation,
Mm-hmm.
researching information for a specific problem. These are known as deep work. Ito yung mga hindi kailangan ng synchronous because it
Mm-hmm.
takes a while for them to respond. So what I'm trying to say here is the more you give people the chance to use asynchronous communication, the more opportunities you give them to do deep thinking, deep work, long-lasting positive impact on the business.
Well,
So,
let me add there, Joey, especially for programming. From a programmer standpoint, you don't want to be constantly bothered by interruption, because
exactly.
when you're into deep thinking, you want to carve a long chunk of time to really concentrate on the task at hand, right?
Right.
So yeah, so this is where asynchronous communication might really be more effective than synchronous communications. Yeah.
And that's I wanted to start with that, Wilson, kasi nga yan ang siguro hindi pinaka-obvious to people who are coming from the physical work environment into a digital work environment. Very important yung asynchronous communication. What do you suggest next, Wilson, is an important
Well,
aspect?
one thing here is, from a employer's point of view, I wouldn't entrust my staff to work from home if I don't really trust them and they don't trust me in return, vice versa. So the next thing that we need to understand is, employers and employees need to be able to form a
Right.
trusting team,
And
right?
it's two-way. It has to be two-way, right?
It's two-way.
It
And
has to
so
be.
here you can see on our slide, there are several means that you can foster trust. And what it boils down to is, if you foster an atmosphere of trust, your people supposedly produce more oxytocin,
Yes.
right? And so that, feelings of happiness, higher
Right.
productivity, and whatnot. And
Yes.
also, if you see the next illustration, there are 4 subsequent dysfunctions that follow the absence of trust. If your teams do not have trust, or they don't trust each other, you then face 4 other problems: conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of responsibility and accountability, and finally, inattention to results. So these all lead to suboptimal performance for your teams.
Yep. And importante yung tip of the pyramid sa taas, yung inattention to results, because that is the clearest sign that
Mm-hmm.
hindi kayo align. Your business objectives, the employers, the owners, business objectives, and what the employees are doing, hindi aligned. You don't
Correct.
have alignment of vision. When there's no alignment of vision, then the results don't matter to the
Right.
employees.
So that was the
Good
theory.
point.
We have two practical tips for you to start fostering trust among your team. And one is the get to know you bingo. Right? So it's a fun game that you can play among your team, so you get your teammates to know each other better. The
Yeah.
other is through the use of a site called Quiz Breaker. Yeah, so those are the two practical tips for creating trust. It's a starting point, right?
So I think that this is a particular shout out to the HR practitioners out
Mm-hmm.
there, the organizational development professionals. I know there's a lot of employee engagement programs that you guys are trying to put into place right now. Do not forget that these techniques that Wilson is talking about, they're a gamification of that engagement. And since most of our employees are millennials now, this works very well for them. They want something which is entertaining, engaging, at the same time, fun.
Yeah,
Gamification makes it fun.
yeah. Okay. So the next item, Joey?
Let's get a bit more serious, okay? And this again, you might think that this is only the area of employers, but this has to be a joint responsibility. We're talking about ensuring security, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there's three kinds of security that we are talking about. Of course, there's physical security, meaning the assets of the company and even the employee themselves.
The
Dapat
welfare of your
secured yan,
employees are secured.
both physically and even mentally, their
Mm-hmm.
well-being, that must be your paramount
Yeah.
concern as an employer. The second kind of security is digital. Most of our assets now are digital in nature. They are residing in the computer or on a thumb drive or a USB or hopefully in the cloud. Of course, when you're at home, you can't really see who is having access to that. So
Mm-hmm.
security of the digital assets, and most importantly, I think for the well-being of both the employer and the employee is the
Yeah.
privacy of that data and even the employee themselves.
Correct. Yeah. So let me just remind our audience today that there are now heavy fines when you when you do not practice due diligence, and as a result, the private data of your clients, of your employees, of your partners are leaked out. There are hefty fines, jail
And
term.
and your DPO, your data protection officer or data privacy officer, whoever that might have been the designated person, maybe it's
Is
the owner,
yeah,
they are the ones who will go to jail.
on the hook. They're the ones on the hook. Right. So we go to the next category.
Yes, way number two. Ito naman, specific naman for employees.
Yes.
What employees must do,
Or can
to,
do.
can do, to be able to productively work from their
And then in a few
office.
seconds less, the wife comes in chasing after the baby. Yeah, you should see that if you
That
haven't
was
seen
caught
that
on
yet.
national television, with millions of people watching.
Yeah. And
Don't
also,
let that be you. Don't let
yeah,
that be you.
yeah.
Okay.
And also, speaking of working from home, it's obviously a good housekeeping rule to check your internet before the start of your shift. And one cool free application that you can use is the one from our advocacy, projectbash.org.
Yes. Yes.
Download it into your mobile phone and check the speed before the start of your shift. That way, you'll know if you have problems with the internet, and you can be proactive about it. And mhm,
Wilson, if I can just plug Project Bass even further, I've been talking to a lot of business owners, a lot of employers lately, and I've constantly been telling them to use Project Bass to determine the connectivity of the wherever the employees are, because you cannot go by what the telcos tell us, the ratings of the bandwidth in areas. You must use Project Bass because this is based on real world data. In other words, yung totoong nangyayari, hindi yung sinasabi ng mga telco.
and the data that is collected helps the community further. Like this
Yes.
morning, I was a resource speaker for the Philippine Senate Committee on Education, Culture, and Sports, where we use the project bus data to help drive policies for education. But that's
Okay.
another matter. So let's go right
Another.
away to number three.
So we don't mean to leave the most difficult for last, but of course, we're talking about employment, working from home. So, syempre, a significant amount of the burden or the responsibility for making this arrangement work are with the employers. So, our,
Correct.
our number three way has to do with tips for what employers must do to make the work from home environment more productive, right? And
So,
I'll let you
so
start with the first one, which I think is pretty close to those of us who employ people. Go ahead,
so
Jason.
so like we need to set the right expectations, and those expectations between employer and employee should be embodied in a formal document. So we propose that employers and employees uh, put everything in writing in what we call a work from home agreement. And and at the minimum, these are some of the checklists that you should agree to.
Yep.
Both of you should agree to. So like number one is, how will the work be measured and how will it be compensated? Is it per output or time based, right?
Yes,
um,
exactly.
Number two, and this is very important, no expectation of privacy. So like in our call center, we provide all the equipment, but that is our equipment and that is only for work. You're not supposed to be doing your private stuff there. So we run software, later on we'll be talking about it, that captures screenshot every 3 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on the interval that you set. And we capture everything. So if you're using it to send love notes to your girlfriend or your boyfriend, we will see it. So therefore, your work from home agreement must have a no expectation of privacy
Yep.
policy.
Yep.
Also, you should have a standard of due care and data loss provision policy.
Yep.
What else?
The privilege of working from home is
Correct.
something which can be revoked by the employer, syempre, because it is a privilege. It is
The keyword is
benefits
privilege,
given.
right? Yeah.
Now, of course, right now, because of the lockdown or quarantine situation, walang choice, no? But we know this is eventually going to ease up. And some people might say, whether you like it or not, I'm going to work from home. The truth
Mhm.
is that is something which should be up to the employer.
And it should be made very clear, your expectations or agreement about when the company really needs you to be on site. Can you be expected to be on site even if you are work from home? Other matters would be, who takes care of hardware and software? Is it company provided or employee provided?
Well,
Joey and
my
I.
my opinion on that is that it's part of the equipment, the part of the work tools. It must be provided by the employer. I've had many discussions with other employers saying, look, ginagamit na sa bahay to, ginagamit na for personal use to eh. So dapat, at the very least, dapat share to, or dapat sa kanila to. And my
uh,
point is, if they're using it for personal reason, it's because you don't have a policy preventing that from happening. I
mhm,
think it's no different than manufacturing equipment. The employee needs it to do their job. You must provide that. So in
correct.
my opinion ko lang to,
Uh,
hardware and software, anything required for them to do their job must be provided by the
yeah.
employer,
Okay.
right?
And then we come to the other more contentious um, issue, which is, who takes care of initial, who pays for electricity, who pays for internet, right? So Joey, I know you have your opinion on this one.
Yeah, so in our company, again, because after all, we are saving quite a bit by not having an office, and we are shifting that expense, I guess you could say, to the employees. We actually have something called a home office allowance that we provide to each and every employee. The home office allowance is supposed to cover the cost not only of the space that they're using at home, you can say almost like a is a rent for the space, but it also must cover incidentals like the additional cost of electricity for running the equipment, maybe for the air conditioning or the electric fan, things that they would incur maybe that they wouldn't otherwise. Now, I know there are people who are saying, teka muna, di ba nakakatipid na sila by not having to commute to work every day? O, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na yun na lang yung kapalit nung tawag mong home office allowance. Well, you could say that, yes, but that expense of commuting is not really generally universally applicable to everybody because some employees live close to their place of work and others are far. Some employees have a vehicle, a public-private vehicle. Others take public. So I think it's more universal, more fair, and democratic to simply say, okay, we will give you a home.
Always believe that employees must have skin in the game. It's not really the matter of money or what, but if you have employees that are ready to invest in their work from home by, you know, shouldering the incidental expenses, these are people that appreciate working from home. And so there's a natural built-in process of self-selection, right? If everything were free and there were added bonuses, everybody would want to work from home. This one is very important. Part of the work from home agreement must have a communications plan. How do you intend your teams to communicate? You need to set aside the frequency and set times for team meetings and whatnot, right? So these are
And
very
just,
important.
yeah, along those lines, just a quick plug. You know, there's something that we do at Servio that we talk about in terms of digital maturity, and one of those aspects of digital maturity has to do with employee engagement. And a very important part of employee engagement in a digital world is the communication plan. How do you communicate with each other? You must have a communication platform that is standard for everybody. Not some people are using WhatsApp, some people are using Viber, you may even mention Facebook Messenger. You're posting your company policies on a Facebook page. That cannot be the case, right? So the communication plan, the check-ins and all of that is all part of what we call the level 1 infrastructure of the business if you want to be digital. So very important to number 8 na to.
And number 9 is the vacation and sick leaves policy. Remember, if they're already working from home and they're not supposed to be going anywhere, what vacation? What sick leaves? Well, sick leave, you know, if you're sick.
Listen, are you saying that kung work from home, wala nang bakasyon tsaka sick leave? Ganun pa sasabi mo?
No naman. There should be rest periods, I agree. But, you know, vacation, but where are you going? There's no place for you to go. But anyway, it's up to the employer and the employee to agree in advance, in writing, about how the work from home should be done or should be executed. And by having that in writing, you set the proper expectation and you avoid issues, right?
Yep. So maybe to set up your next point on this, is it enough that you have the agreement and people sign it?
Of course not. Of course not. Joey, what do we need to do?
Well, there needs to be, just like any other important policy or agreement you have between employer and employee, there needs to be an actual interactive orientation on it.
Correct, yeah.
You know, a lot of people just sign stuff, take a look at the agreement, employment agreement, kailangan pirman para ma-employ ako. So we know from our own HR practices, you must always have an orientation, a face-to-face orientation, or shall we say, a camera-to-camera orientation of this policy, right? Let's move on to another, I guess, more tangible aspect of this that the employer must
provides the
provide.
hardware.
I talked earlier about the fact that my philosophy is that all hardware, all software or equipment provided by the employer. So in that case, ano ba yun? When we talk about hardware tools, what would that be? Number 1, anong sa tingin mo? Number 1, employee responsibility.
Aside from the computing equipment, you need to ensure stable power supply. So it's not like in developed countries, like in Singapore. I've been here 10 years and I've never seen a blackout. Never. You know, except for the in-house nag-trip yung wiring ko kasi
I was gonna say, ako nakakita na isa, anong nangyari, nag-trip yung fuse box nung
kasi
company
na-overload.
namin. Yes,
Yeah,
na-overload.
but the main
Na-overload.
utility never went down.
No,
So like
no.
if you're a manager from a first world country and you're managing remote home teams in the Philippines, this is something that you may not have been aware of, but you need to provide AVR because the
Yes,
voltage in the rural areas go down at night. From
a lot,
220 goes down to 180, 160.
a lot.
And there's a lot of blackouts. We call them euphemistically brownouts.
Because we're brown.
So like, you know, you could put up UPS, at least provide minimum of 20 minutes of backup power to give you enough time to save your important work.
Yep. And let
Yep.
me tell you, this I'm
Mhm.
talking to the employers out there. You know, you're not doing this just because you're being nice. And remember, the computers that these AVRs and these UPSs are protecting contain your data,
Data,
your
your
company's
corporate
data.
data.
Kung makorap yan, guess who will suffer? The business, right?
Bye-bye na,
So,
bye-bye.
yeah,
So it's a
it's
good
like,
investment.
yeah, it's a good investment. Okay, but maybe we can move on to something other hardware that you and I are very passionate about because you know most of the work we do is in front of the computer.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think Wilson, it's enough to give a computer, a laptop, maybe to an employee, and that's all you need to provide as far as computing equipment? Tama
No,
na ba yung laptop with a small 12-inch monitor?
so
Screen?
like if you have the budget for that, I highly encourage you to invest a second monitor for your people. It will improve productivity by leaps and bounds. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Again,
those
sa
of you
amin,
that are
ganun,
on,
all of
yeah.
our setups for work from home in our company, may laptop and merong second large monitor.
So Brian, let's show the boss mode setup.
Etong akin, pakita natin. So this is what my setup, the setup I'm using right now. This is what it looks
Wow.
like, right? I have my laptop, as you can see, running my software, but
Uh-huh.
I happen to have two external monitors because, well, it's very productive for me to do that. I
Uh-huh.
also have my ring light and my camera inside the ring
Okay.
light.
And your coffee.
And my coffee, of
And your
course,
Iron Man.
and my Iron Man
That's actually
phone
a
holder.
cell phone holder.
Cell
Yeah.
phone holder. Yes. Okay.
Um,
But actually, akin yan. But I have to say, Wilson, I think you've got me beat.
not
Let's
to
show
brag.
everybody. Let's show everybody your setup. Ito ngayon ang setup ni Wilson. Okay?
I,
Hindi lang dalawang monitor na external kagaya ko. He has four. Wilson, what the heck are you gonna do with four monitors?
social media on one, research on two, conference on the other one.
Yeah,
Right? So
okay.
so
Okay.
every time you have to waste time minimizing a window and opening a window, you're losing productivity. So I
I,
don't
I,
want that. Yeah.
I agree. I
So
agree.
if you think my setup is fantastic, you should see my boss setup. Show them, show them.
Yes, this is your wife.
Yeah,
Oh
super
my
boss
God!
mode,
Yes.
gaming monitor.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
so
Good.
like
So other than monitors, I'm sure they can see you're wearing one right now. What about on the audio? On the audio, ano pa
yeah.
kailangan na?
So let's show them the slide. You can have the wireless Plantronics type with echo canceling headsets. So like if you're working in a very noisy environment, it can cancel most of the ambient noises, so the
Right.
audio quality is clear.
Right.
But
And
then
that's for hardware, no? Pero meron mga software available na ngayon also to
yeah,
help your audio, di ba?
yeah, there's Solicol and Crisp. So they are software-based noise canceling. But when I tried Solicol Pro, didn't quite do the job. And I heard from Tsar that the Crisp software-based noise canceling couldn't also block out the noise of a rooster crowing in the morning. So like, take a look at it and see if it works for you in your environment.
And
But
there are
then,
many other software not necessarily related to the audio, right? That we also have seen that can help productivity, which again the employer should provide. things having to do with security, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and even things like timekeeping. This is you found this tool called Time Doctor that
Mm-hmm.
does that, right?
So
And
the
then
nice thing, so the nice thing about Time Doctor, if Jolita can show the screenshot, this is an actual screenshot of our people working from home. It not only tracks the time logged in, it also tracks the productivity hours. And in our case, we agreed beforehand that we will pay our people that are working from home based only on productive time. So what does
exactly.
productive time mean? It means that you are working your mouse and you're working your keyboard, and you're going to rated productive rated sites. So if you were to go to Netflix and watch 8 hours of video, that's
Hindi yun counted.
unproductive. Hindi kasama
Hindi
yon.
yun counted. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then there's this other software you told me about, which is also very interesting, called I Done This. Parang ganun
Yes.
din siya. I Done This. Right?
So it's like a cross between project management stuff and Time Doctor. It keeps the teams coordinated in terms of what things have been done, finished, or goal project management
Yeah.
mostly.
So if you want to know more about the productivity tools that you can provide your employees at this time, there's an article here from Inc. magazine that we'll show you the link on right now. You can
Mm-hmm.
take a look at that. Ang daming pwedeng tignan. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. But let me just say, your options for team management software are not limited to proprietary, expensive, and hard to use solutions. Okay, there are many general purpose communication tools that are affordable, even free, easy to use, locally available, and supported by Filipino providers. Okay, so for example, there are free consumer oriented tools like Skype and Facebook Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
These tools will work just fine for your team communications.
Google Meet also, right?
In Google Meet, yes, but they
Mm-hmm.
will not have the collaboration features that a business will need. Okay, there are
Okay.
also business and professional oriented tools: Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Microsoft 365 Teams. These team communications and collaboration tools will definitely have the business management features that a professional needs. But remember, they come at a price. May
Price.
bayad yan. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Finally, there are business and professional-oriented tools that are available for free. Diyan na yun yung Google Meet na sinasabi ni
Mm.
Wilson. It's a very good tool. It's free. And as the name suggests, this tool is brought to you by Google, a company that has a long history of providing reliable business tools for free. Now, coming up as a worthy alternative to Google Meet is something called Lark from SERVIO Technologies. Lark is the new kid on the block since it was only introduced here in the Philippines by SERVIO Technologies, the sponsor of this show. Full disclosure, I am a co-founder of SERVIO Technologies, okay? So just
Full
like Google,
disclosure, I'm a user of Lark. Not I don't have financial interest in Lark.
yes, not an owner, okay? So just like Google Meet, Lark is a business and professional team communication and collaboration tool, but it's totally free. Unlike other tools, though, that I mentioned, Lark is supported and maintained in the Philippines by Servio Technologies, a 100% Filipino company. It's part of our advocacy of providing software pang negosyo abot
Mm.
kaya ng Filipino. If you want to get your free Lark tool with free technology services from Servio, drop by larkfromservio.com. Again, that is larkfromservio.com.
Yes.
Okay? Now, napakarami na natin na cover, Wilson, sa episode
Mm-hmm.
na ito. But
Uh-huh.
we have a lot more we can discuss, but we really have to wrap it up now. We're out of time. So
All right.
maybe it's time for us to wrap it up. And Wilson, your parting words.
Yeah. This episode really wouldn't be possible without the help of all my Facebook friends that help us with all their ideas. So I'd like to mention them: Emmanuel Caseñas, Santillan Christopher, Bob Matthew Sunga, Resli George Amador, Char Umang, Ton Opaco, Sermon Chito Ibrahim, DICT,
Hi, Mon.
Garibaldi
Hi,
Melesio,
Sermon.
Titus Manuel, Cindy Chua, Julie Ang, my sister-in-law, Lito Aberia, Nelson Lim, Mark Beagleman, Rene Canlas, Blue Juice, Marwell Vincent, Ed Casulia, President and founder of United Pangasinan ICT Group. And finally, Miss Natalia Basto Dalaten, Acting Provincial Director, DTI Pangasinan, for helping promote our show to all their MSME friends in Pangasinan. So that's my
Hello,
wrap-up.
hello Pangasinan. Thanks for your support. Ang dami mo palang supporters, Wilson. Ang dami mo palang contributors. Good for you.
So those ideas that you see, most of them came from our friends.
Yes, we are not geniuses. We just have friends who are geniuses.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so let me wrap up my part of it. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced many businesses to close down. Most of these bankruptcies were of traditional physical businesses, while most of the survivors are the more modern digital businesses. The digital maturity model, or DMM, is both a framework and a roadmap for digital transformation that was developed for growing businesses. We developed DMM based on our observations of and working experiences with hundreds of SME owners and managers who have attempted to implement technology solutions within their businesses. SERVIO Technologies uses DMM in developing technology solutions and tools that have accelerated the digital transformation journey of many Filipino companies. We predict that any SME that does not have a digitally enabled workforce will be extinct by the year 2021. So don't be extinct. Survive and grow by learning how to become a digital native on businesstechnologycoach.com. Again, businesstechnologycoach.com. Come over and we'll help you out.
Now,
Thank you very much.